welcome to our webinar. Today's session is called the Road to TribalNet series. It is 10 reasons tribes are moving to ERP from the cloud. So joining us today is Matt Borkowski from Arctic IT and Terry Michaels from Microsoft. And they will start our presentation here next up. So with that, I'm going to turn it right over to you, Matt.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We're excited to be here today. Grateful for the opportunity to share with you all and just talk about some things that we're passionate about. And that is, why are tribes moving ERP to the cloud? I'm grateful to be joined by Terry Michaels today from Microsoft to lend her expertise so you can hear directly from Microsoft on some of the opportunities that they have in cloud ERP. Today we will be diving into just a quick recap over the current challenges so many folks face with legacy ERP software, and then moving into 10 reasons that tribes are moving their ERP to the cloud. And we'll even have some data to back that up at the end. So it's not just what we think the 10 reasons are, but we've helped numerous tribes move to the cloud, and we've got some good data behind that, which definitely shows what are these 10 of the key reasons folks are moving to the cloud. And then with that, when we're done with that, we'll take a specific look at what Microsoft has to offer in the cloud ERP arena. And then with time permitting, we'll even spend a little bit of time showing you a live demonstration of just what some of those cloud features look like, what you can do to then get started and have some time for Q&A at the end. Now, making a modernization priority, like moving to the cloud, often starts with just taking a look at some of the headaches that we have with traditional legacy ERP solutions. And a lot of that starts with the fact that these older systems tend to really silo out your teams, your different departments, programs, different services that you offer to your members or your guests. You tend to be very in different systems that cannot easily connect to one another, leaving you with the same data that different departments need access to, really duplicated in various places, which then leads to a lot of manual processes for reconciliation. And you coming up with what truly is our source of truth, what is those real records at month end, or those things, and truly leads to insufficient tracking. When you do not have that data, a single source of truth that can be shared across the departments for folks that need it, then oftentimes you're just falling short in giving the proper data, proper access, proper record keeping to the folks that need it, kind of distributed throughout the organization. Or when you need to, maybe you end up having to where data is getting exported, shared in certain places, and really just start bringing more and more security risks in place, or security risks inherent of trying to overcome legacy solutions, like how do we allow our finance team to connect to the system when they can't be in the office, and those things. And so with these are just 5 key issues that we often see with legacy systems that are truly being addressed and guiding folks towards looking at a modern, more robust solution in the cloud. And so with that, the key reasons for the presentation today is what are 10 reasons, key reasons why tribes are moving their finance and ERP system to the cloud. Reason number 1, this is true across a lot of cloud applications, not just ERP, but that being able to budget predictable pricing. When we've gotten so used to that recurring every few years, laying out some large infrastructure costs, or maybe after the fact, you've got your budget request in and having to go back because, now we need to deploy new servers for our ERP upgrade that we hadn't counted costs for, and it's difficult to budget for. And then the maintenance of that. Maybe you've got if something goes down, you have to spend some unplanned money to get things in place. So really getting rid of those hardware costs to support your ERP, getting rid of the infrastructure behind that, or freeing that up for other uses, so that you're taking care of your ERP solution is much more budget friendly. You know what your monthly support costs will be, your monthly license costs, and that factors in everything else that you used to kind of have to budget for from a capital improvement perspective. And it just makes it easier and faster to scale as your team grows. If you need to add a few more licenses, you can easily do that. If more and more data volume is coming up, well, you've got the cloud to support that. You're not having to look at new storage arrays or other things like that, because it's all part of that monthly subscription. All right, reason number 2, staying on the latest version. This is near and dear to my heart as someone that spent a lot of years supporting Dynamics GP and other legacy applications, knowing that every few years having to talk with our customers about, well, you need to plan to upgrade because support of your current version is going out of place, and now you have to plan for that months and months ahead of time, so you have your infrastructure updates, maybe new Windows Server operating system, new SQL, infrastructure behind that to all support it. That to just stay on that latest version, becomes miniature projects in and of themselves every time. And so you end up delaying those updates, and therefore you're not taking advantage of the latest items that are out there. Even worse, maybe some of the security patches or fixes that you really want to have as part of your ERP. So being on a cloud solution where your updates and upgrades are automated, or at least you easily scheduled, you deploy them every few months, and that you're always on the latest solutions. And that if you have to have customizations or other things as part of that, almost every cloud ERP has some form of an extension model, which allows you to deploy a customization without changing anything in the base platform, so that those upgrades are automatically deployed, and that extension package, if you will, is automatically inherent and backwards compatible with new versions. Or the new versions are backwards compatible, with those extensions. So we're able to scale to meet change in demand. You're no longer constrained by how you initially deployed the solution, that those configuration changes are much more flexible and easy to make. So as your business changes, as your funding source requirements change, you're able to adapt and track the data that you need and upgrade and stay on the latest and most secure build without having to worry about major upgrade projects every few years. It's just inherent in that cloud solution. And a lot of that leads to the reason number 3 is just truly creating less work for internal IT to maintain your ERP solution. When you're not having to worry about keeping the infrastructure behind everything patched, you're not having to worry about maintaining separate usernames and passwords or everything else that goes behind it. When you don't have that on-premise maintenance just to keep your ERP system running, you don't have the hardware to upkeep. Those upgrades as we talked about, it really can help free up your IT team to focus on more proactive things. Focus on security, compliance, best practices, IT planning, governance, maybe doing cool things like analytics, reporting, other things that tend to be more fulfilling and providing more strategic value for the organizations, for your tribe, rather than just trying to keep the lights on from day to day for your ERP solution. And number 4, something that's become so relevant in today's business culture is just working from any device, anywhere, anytime. Truly, the need, business continuity has taken on a completely new meaning over the last 18 months to 2 years. That idea of business continuity in the past was always around, where are my backups? If you're thinking cloud-wise, it's where do we how do we have our data stored in multiple locations in case something happens, which is all still good things to have in place. How do you prepare against natural disasters? But we never really took into account, what do we do if it is not safe or healthy for us to be in the office? If all of a sudden, our workforce is completely geographically separated, how do we enable that securely? How do we give them access to all those features? I don't know how many of our customers and finance departments were having to work scheduled shifts of who's coming in for a few days, then being gone to quarantine for a couple of weeks and coming back in, just so they could get AP done, just so they could do month-end closings. Being able to truly empower your workforce securely to work anywhere that they have an internet connection has been a major driving force, as I'm sure a lot of you have already had to deal with in regards to moving to cloud ERP. Those that had been forward thinking and had already made that move, that transition was so much easier and they didn't have to worry about opening up security holes or having so many people connecting through the small pipe that their VPN enabled, where everything was just slowing down. Just made things so much more secure, so smooth, and easier to be flexible in that. And we're seeing that really as a business requirement going forward. And then beyond that, just having being able to take advantage of some new functionality, like apps for reviewing and approving transactions, maybe running reports right from your phone, being able to maybe even make changes to a purchase request right on your phone while you're in the middle of a meeting or those things, rather than having to take notes, go back to your desk, log into the system to do it all there. And there again, of course, that business continuity for hybrid and remote workforce is now more important than it has ever been, and will continue to be going forward. But reason number 5, just being able to benefit from security at scale. And truly what that means is being able to take advantage of large scale security investments made by these cloud providers. That security is just built in. It's not a bolted on thing where, okay, you've got your ERP, now you need your monitoring solution, now you need your logging systems, all these other things that are looking at that ERP, instead having it be built into that ERP, into that entire platform from the ground up. Especially when you're looking at major providers. Obviously, Microsoft is our preference, but even those on AWS or those things, truly having that enterprise class security team behind, always keeping things up to date, with the latest and highest levels of security compliance, those things that most organizations, there's just no way that they can afford to do that in their own on-premise environment. Or for time and time again, when we hear about government agencies, tribal governments in particular, now being specifically targeted in ransomware attacks, and all of their on-premise solutions being victimized by those ransomware attacks at the same time, versus being able to have that on a cloud provider, being separated from that to ensure that those applications, that key data that you need to continue to provide services for your membership and your guests, having that in the cloud to ensure that there isn't business interruption if something, God forbid, happens at the at your local network level. And then just being able to take advantage of some of the just de facto needs for a system right now, like multi-factor authentication. That just almost eliminates 99% or more of authentication related hacks, right? And then having again the power of the major tech companies behind there. You looked at every year Microsoft investing $1 billion in cybersecurity. Really leading the country in their cybersecurity and cybercrimes task forces. That is just impressive, and something that on a local on-premise level we can never compete with and hope to achieve those same levels of security, really, especially when you need to enable connectivity and use via the internet in today's environment. And then we get into some more of the fun stuff, right? There's reason 6, being able to take advantage of modern functionality, just modern features and functionality. Time and time again, when we are reviewing and talking to folks about their requirements, what they want in a new system, things that we wouldn't have thought to ask about in years past, right? The idea to have a modern and robust workflow that works outside of a single application, where you can connect multiple applications together and automate some of those recurring manual processes to ensure compliance across things in ways that before almost always had to be manually involved. Now you can truly build those business rules into your modern workflows, robust functionality. Being able to adapt the way that you've configured a system, where your chart of accounts and general ledger structure isn't necessarily completely tied to the database structure behind the scenes that was deployed, like so many legacy solutions have. Being able to enable true flexible configuration so that you can adapt and make changes to things when funding sources, granting agencies, and the federal government and ARP funds and all these things are continually changing the data that you need to report back. Being on a system that enables that to enforce compliance across the board, while then also giving you some of the fun stuff, like having machine learning behind the scenes that you enable to take a look at maybe your inventory data. So we can spot trends and let you know that hey, you've been consuming more of these goods than you normally do. You might want to ramp up your ordering, because if you go off your typical par levels on this, you're likely to not be able to meet the demand of your guests. Or being able to use embedded OCR functionality, so that as soon as an email comes in with an attached invoice from a vendor, it is routed through an inbox and read, information off that read, so that by the time AP actually has to engage with it, a lot of that initial data entry work and validation has been done. So now they're just reviewing for compliance, validation, sending those for approvals to really help increase or decrease, excuse me, the error rates and things that are out there, and allow them to just process things more quickly, and just spend more time focusing on the work that's more fulfilling, rather than just the data entry time frame of things. And then being able to add more functionality into what you're doing, rather than always having separate systems for things. Being on one platform where you can do like your e-commerce and retail, full inventory work, inventory tracking, your warehouse management, full supply chain tracking, especially on the casino level. You think about how so often there's been multiple food and beverage systems, different ordering systems, different bidding systems that you're having to validate across. Being able to bring that all within one. So from the beginning of looking at what are we going to buy, to the menu and ordering at the restaurants in the end, kind of all being on that same platform, so you don't have inventory in 17 different systems like we've been so used to over the years. Reason number 7, really just simplifying workflows and workloads with Microsoft app integration. I mean, the joke that we always make, but it rings true, is that the most commonly used accounting system in the world is Excel, right? I mean, no finance user doesn't spend time in Excel at one point or another. So most cloud solutions now are really taking advantage of that integration with the Microsoft products. Obviously, when you're focused on that Microsoft stack, like we're talking about today, when you can truly have what we call it interoperability, is a big kind of buzzword. But that idea of doing more than just being able to export data to Excel or import data back in, but truly being able to make use of the system, make use of the data, see where your vendor balances are at. We'll see an example of this later. When you're inside of Outlook, or being able to truly engage with the system in meaningful ways without downloading copies of data stored someplace else, but where you're directly syncing Excel and your system. So you can keep data from being exported and shipped off someplace where you can't control it, but you can still use your system data inside of Excel in meaningful ways for your users. And it truly just improves your existing business processes with automation, because you've already got, you think about revenue audits or things that are being done by your revenue teams at casinos so frequently. Inevitably, Excel gets involved in some way, shape, or form in that. Well, if Excel is already tied directly to your accounting system, the ability to take that data, you publish it into the system, validate based on reporting that everything came in right there without juggling multiple systems. You're doing that all right from the Excel directly, just elevates the efficiency and your ability for your users to perform the daily tasks that they need in ways that are comfortable to them, while maintaining that secure connectivity, that encrypted data all throughout the process. And improving collaborations across departments and teams. Reason number 8. At the beginning, we talked about that siloed teams is just one of the side effects we see that just permeates organizations that are using legacy applications. Being able to be on a single platform with multiple applications that are connected to one another, so you can gain one source of truth. You really get rid of those data silos. A great example of that is what we're seeing being used across a lot of tribal governments out there, is that idea of having like your enrollment solution or your education platform where you're tracking your cases and service requests, but for your membership, maybe going into social and family services, your court systems, all those being on a single platform where you can where you can segregate the data confidentially when you need to, but then share common like contact records for who are your members, who all is in their household, who is eligible for services, and being able to share that where it makes sense to, and then all tied into your financial system, so you can start responding to council requests for how much money are we truly investing as an organization into this household, into this family. Where are we falling short in meeting grant goals? When you're on a platform like Dynamics 365 or something similar where everything is connected, like what we've done with our tribal platforms, Dynamics 365, connected in with the financial systems, it just allows for faster, better decision-making, giving you visibility, especially at a top level for authorized individuals to be able to see what's going on across an entire household, or family, or member, or into the casino side of things. Where are your guests? And what is the overall revenue associated with our various our food and beverage services, our gaming services, our hotel services, those sorts of aspects, our spas, being able to consolidate all of that into a platform so you've got that overarching reporting can just really start to enable so much more across your organization that you maybe wouldn't have thought of before, or would have taken lots of time in Excel with manual processes to get done in the past. Being able to break down those data silos with a system that's accessible securely via the internet. Reason number 9, being able to predict and plan with better business intelligence. Truly, if you're talking the analytics and just better reporting and dashboards, when you have data on a cloud-based collaborative platform, and you can start using things like Power BI, Tableau, these other kind of industry standard, world-leading solutions for analytics, you can really start doing a lot with that. And a lot of solutions come with kind of a number of those out of the box that they know a lot of finance and ERP users need, but then being able to take those data sets and expand off of that to create meaningful reports, meaningful analytics for people across the organization, especially at the high level. When you think about your budget performance, where are we at in regards to our forecasted revenue, and where are we coming in? Where's our budget to actual on that? Being able to see meaningful graphs, meaningful charts in a quick way, maybe on their phone at any point in the middle of meetings to drive just more effective collaboration. We see that time and time again, that just about every organization we talk to has this as a priority. The ability to use analytics in a way that just benefits the organization. So you can reduce the risks with making decisions based off of old data or disconnected data, and just the cutting costs of trying to get all that together because it's automated. You don't have lots of labor and teams trying to come up with this once a month with Excel work, and they can just help you to drive overall revenue, whether having better data to be able to support grant requests for the tribal government side, or whether that's knowing where to invest and expand your usage at the casino or gaming level to improve your guest experiences. Being on a cloud platform just makes the use of those business analytical tools so much easier and more effective, and just accessible anywhere that you are when you're needing that information. And then finally, reason number 10 here is just extending the capabilities with third-party or extended apps, right? The ability that, because if you're making a large investment in migrating to a new ERP, you want to make sure that that's going to meet your needs for years to come, not just where you are now. That as business changes more and more rapidly, and our need to adapt to changing environments happens more and more quickly. It's almost a daily occurrence right now. Knowing that you're on a solution that meets your requirements for now, but enables you to meet potential future requirements. Most cloud solutions are built on top of things like an API framework for integration development, so that you can design integrations with other systems that are just key business applications for your organization, but that does not bypass the important business rules and structure and data logic and validation that you have inside the application by using this API framework that allows you to adapt those, create those more easily, maintain those, but then also enforce that data integrity, validation, and other business rules. Being able to use a low-code development platform or low-code, no-code development platform like Power Apps, so that if you need to create like mobile app to do a unique feature, meet a unique requirement, whether that's maybe being out in the field, you're doing a quick your housing inspection, wanting to track those fields and submit that in for maybe subsistence requests or your housing reimbursements, other things like that. Maybe being able to track your fixed assets, when they've been moved someplace, doing those things. Being able to develop these little apps or even web portals, utilizing a platform like Power Apps that is just natively integrated with an ERP solution, just enables you to extend and do a lot more with the platform without going out and buying new applications all the time. And then having something like a widely used system, whether that's a Microsoft app source or something similar for another of ERP, where you can see what additional functionality are other companies like Arctic IT developing and selling that bolt into our ERP to meet some unique needs or requirement that isn't met out of the box. Being on a cloud platform not only enables that more easily, but allows you to quickly browse to see what's available, load those into test environments to check them out. You can talk with your partners, your trusted ERP support providers to ensure that you are making best use of the available technologies that are out there. And now that we've talked about just 10 reasons why tribes are moving their ERP to the cloud and some of the benefits you can expect from that, I'm going to turn it over to Terry, from Microsoft, who I'm glad to have with us, to tell you some specific things that the Microsoft offers with their cloud ERP.
Great, thanks, Matt. I loved all those reasons, the top 10 reasons. I think they're just great and so relevant in today's world. So what I wanted to do is just kind of go over start off with a little bit about the broader platform, which is Microsoft 365. So think of Office and Teams and SharePoint, Windows, that kind of falls under that Microsoft 365 umbrella. And then our business applications, which is Dynamics 365. And there's really kind of three really primary main pillars that I wanted to point out in regards to that. First of all, is that it's all built and predicated on our Azure cloud platform. And so our Azure cloud is the most secure cloud offering available today, with over 70 certifications, including things like FedRAMP, CGIS, NIST 800, DISA, just to name a few. We can provide continuous operations. And so this brings me to Matt's point. Matt, when you mentioned Great Plains and the upgrades, I got a shiver down my back, I have to admit. Coming from the Great Plains world, very familiar with that. And just any kind of legacy application, having to spend the week or the weekend doing your upgrades, that is no longer the case. And so we're able to provide that continuous operations through one version and our lifecycle services. So those things really go away as just such a big opportunity to be efficient. And also never having to worry about the latest hardware because Microsoft is taking care of that. Our first-in-class integration platform that allows those easy integrations with the power of our low-code, no-code development environment, and Matt had mentioned that as well. And these are things such as Power Apps. So that was that area where you can kind of create that little mobile app that will really enhance and help automate some of those things. Power Portals, Power Virtual Agents. So think about, your chat bot. You can go to your website and now you actually have the power of that capability right at your own hands. So you can really make it efficient for members to come in and get information on their own, get questions answered all through the ability to use that virtual agent. And then the common data service, which has just been renamed Dataverse, but that's actually going to be a place where it makes integrations just really super easy in terms of being able to take data from multiple data sources and really kind of do the things that you need to do with it to normalize it and so forth. Okay. And lastly, we combine all of this with that collaboration platform. So utilizing all the power of the Microsoft 365 stack with Office, Outlook, SharePoint, and Teams. And if we look a little bit further now into the business applications platform, we've integrated the entire platform from CRM, or what we referred to as the front of the house, and ERP, or our back office, and bringing those together and all of that functionality for your end-to-end business processes. So whether it be the front office, which includes customer engagement applications, things like customer service, case management, field services, to some of the specific tribal applications that Arctic IT has created for us, including court and family services and solutions that support education and other areas for the organization. And then tying this all back into the back office for your finance, commerce, e-commerce, supply chain, and financial reporting needs. And so what we've done is we've realized that not one solution is just going to fit all organizations. And so we have two offerings that really provide that full ERP functionality, but we've kind of broken it out between small to medium-sized organizations and then our larger enterprise level organizations. So Business Central is designed for our small and medium-sized organizations, but it's optimized for financials, billing, accounts payable, inventory, distributions, etc. And then there's actually a whole host of ancillary apps that are created through our ISVs, or independent software vendors, to support specific areas that might not be inherent within the application, but they're built on that same platform. Okay, so it has the same similar look and feel throughout the entire application. And those are ideal for smaller tribal governments, smaller tribal gaming operations, economic development corporations, and other kind of smaller agencies within the tribe. And then also then our financial, our finance and supply chain management. And so that's our dynamics, what we've referred to as FNO. You might hear that term thrown about occasionally. Finance and operations. And so that again is going to support our larger enterprise level ERP organizations requirements. So it's very full featured. It supports multi-entity consolidations, budget planning, reporting. It has a full supply chain. So everything from your inventory to, if need be, like production, order management and things like that. And that's going to be, again, better for the larger tribal gaming organizations and tribal governments. Okay, and so with that, I'm going to turn it back to Matt for some additional details.
Terry,
all right, thank you.
Oh, Terry,
Yeah.
before you, we had a question pop up and say, can you, when you were talking about smaller versus larger tribe, can you define that?
Sure. And Matt, you got to keep me honest here. I want to say that Business Central is typically for organizations that have under, I want to say 100 employees. Would that be correct?
Yes, and sometimes that it can really come down to the size of the user base that's going to need it, depending upon your operation and the folks that are in there. We've seen folks make great use of Business Central that maybe have 300-400 employees or more. It could be even higher than that if they don't have a super large user base. And so, in general, a hard cutoff is the fact that the finance and supply chain management does have a minimum of 20 users. So if your finance team or the folks that are going to be doing those daily transactions is fewer than 20 people, then the finance and supply chain is probably for sure going to be too big. But we often see that kind of sweet spot be even in that 40 to 50 user range. Especially if you're dealing with multiple entities. We have dedicated teams, maybe in AP and procurement. But if you have folks that are doing a lot of general bookkeeping, that are using multiple modules quite a bit, and your team is at least is below 20, then that is a good cutoff. And if you're in that middle range, depending upon the functionality that you need, one or the other might be a better fit. And so if you have more in-depth questions, I'd be happy to help answer some of those on a one-on-one basis to make sure that we recommend the right solution for you.
Yeah, that's a good point, Matt. To really look at the business processes that are inherent to the organization, that probably is the most important kind of guideline that I think we all go by, to make sure that the solution has the appropriate functionality to support your business processes that you need. And then probably secondly, we look at, okay, then how many users and that sort of thing. So yeah.
Correct.
Great question.
All right, now just bringing a little bit together of what we talked about earlier in regards to the 10 reasons and what that might some of those reasons might look like in the Microsoft Dynamics realm. And we talked about being able to work from anywhere on different devices securely. And this is just some screenshots from Dynamics 365 Business Central, where you could see kind of in the background that folks are just most of the time are accessing that via a PC, utilizing any of the most commonly used browsers that are out there. Nothing that needs to be installed locally. But there are different form factor versions available, including iOS apps and Android apps that give full functionality of the system just right from an app, securely using that same Azure Active Directory authentication. So you can't bypass or on the mobile device using any of the security and authentication methods behind there. But even being able to not just see, maybe approve purchase orders, things from your phone, but being able to run reports, maybe even make an adjustment to a request on the fly from right there. Looking at a journal entry, making an adjustment even via the phone for those that are authorized to do so. Full functionality via those mobile apps, so you can truly enable, you give that experience that's consistent across the different platforms, form factors. And we talked about using the Microsoft, or the term I used earlier, the interoperability. That idea that here we see an idea where you get an email in from a vendor, right? But then being able to write without leaving Outlook. If you have that email address associated with the vendor in your accounting system, being able to see what is our current vendor balance, what outstanding POs do we have, seeing a list of transactions. So if the question was about a check for a specific invoice, you can see the status of that invoice. Has it been paid? Maybe a check has been cut and is in the mail. You don't have to leave the system, look things up. You can automatically see that right from inside of Outlook because of that shared service of the Microsoft Cloud Platform. And being able to use things like Microsoft Word to design what you want your printed invoices to look like, or your purchase order templates, those sorts of things in a way that's a lot more user-friendly than what we might think about, because we all use Word and Excel and those things so often. And just as a recap, again, what are some of those key reasons or the differences that we're seeing that are driving people to those cloud solutions? Those legacy platforms typically being on-premise, vulnerable to those site-related issues, where redundancy is possible, but it's very difficult and costly. The validation of data backups and where those are being stored and all the processes that goes behind that. And then just those security risks and having to enable remote desktop connections or VPNs or some other older technology for that, which typically is very expensive to maintain, the pipes in and out and to secure. Or instead, especially with the changing landscape of what business continuity looks like right now versus what we thought about it a couple of years ago, where so much of that data backup, the inherent redundancy through those cloud mechanics, having multiple, like for Microsoft, where you've got geo-redundant data centers. So if something happens at one, the data is automatically up and available via another data center in a matter of minutes. being able to empower a remote workforce, the artificial intelligence behind there. And one of the key things there is just that cloud systems do require an efficient internet connectivity. And that has been something that has slowed down the adoption of cloud services for a lot of tribes, just being in traditionally rural areas. But with improved infrastructure processes being made for broadband nationwide, and even in some of the most recent bills that are up for approval right now, including billions of dollars in broadband infrastructure support from the federal government, being made available, and so much that already haven't been made available, that more and more we're seeing that become less and less of a limitation for our tribal customers, that are allowing them to truly make efficient use of cloud-based solutions. And I talked about earlier that this isn't just based off of our opinions of this, but truly, when we look at tribes that have made the move to Microsoft Cloud applications, that right now there are almost 300 tenants, and by now, since this is September, there probably is 300 tribal tenants in the cloud, in the Microsoft Cloud. With over 83,000 tribal employees that are using those Microsoft 365 applications in the Microsoft Cloud, and then over 50 tribal organizations that have moved to the Dynamics 365 business applications. That's a pretty significant move over the last number of years, and we see that continuing to ramp up and being able to make use of that. So there's a lot of good data behind that, folks, that we've helped move, and that have made the move themselves or other things to truly take advantage of what's available in the Microsoft Cloud. And here's just an example of one of our customers that we recently helped make the move, and just their ability to be able to connect their different, at the Mille Lacs Band, their corporate ventures, they have different entities, different businesses all throughout Minnesota and various areas, and the ability for them all to be on a cloud platform, so that they can have shared applications that make sense from an accounting level, that they can review and approve their transactions. They can use Microsoft Cloud applications and do things that just break down some of those communication issues and data issues that they had in the past, now kind of bringing that all together. And we're just very proud of our ability to work with them and the things that we've done. So maybe if you're at the point now where you are saying, okay, what's next? And depending upon where you are at in your own market research of what makes sense for you, for your tribe or your organization to make that move to the cloud, Arctic IT will provide a cloud migration assessment for you as part of that market research standpoint, complimentary, especially from that tribe to tribe sort of business. We are very proud to be 100% native owned. We are a subsidiary of the Doyon Alaska Native Corporation, hence the name Arctic. While we are nationwide and work with tribes across there, doing native business together is something that we're very proud of, and has enabled us to just specialize in technology for tribal governments, casinos, other economic development corporations. And with that experience, we'd be happy to provide that migration assessment for you to know really what can you expect, what sort of changes would you maybe need to make ahead of time before a major switch like that. Please let us know. We'd be happy and glad and proud to work with you all on that. So having said that, we've got probably just about 5 minutes here to show you a little bit of a live solution. What does a cloud Dynamics application look like, and how might that differ from a few things we've seen from an on-premise standpoint? I'm going to bring over. You see, I've got Google Chrome open here. I'm going to go out to just my saved link for my Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain Management. And here you see, for those of you that have used Microsoft Cloud services in the past, it is prompting me for my cloud account login. Now, Dynamics 365 is completely single sign-on enabled through Azure Active Directory. So if you're already using Azure Office 365, when you're logging into your system, users will not have to do this again because it is already inherent in that authentication platform. But I am using a separate browser here. You can see here it's prompting me for that multi-factor authentication request. So on my phone, I'm opening up my authenticator. It is validating via my Face ID, using those biometrics to improve my ability to log in. so that if someone were to compromise my credentials somehow, via some sort of hacker, that sort of thing, they would still not be able to log in, because to do so, it requires a face scan on my phone, right? So ultimate authentication control utilizing Azure Active Directory authentication there. So now that I've logged into finance and operations or supply chain management, you see there was nothing to install, just completely using a web browser. But in doing that, you can just take advantage of some of the modern just web browser things. If you think about it, in the past, if you had a legacy solution, the ability to zoom in and zoom out, or maybe use spell checking that's built into the browser, all that kind of stuff, change your views of things that can fit the different form factors if you're accessing this via tablet or something like that. That is all just inherent now in the way that a cloud application is accessed and used via browser-based access, and the accessibility features behind that. Right? And taking that a step further, being able to drill into what in Dynamics 365 we call workspaces. Right? Rather than going through traditional menus where you're doing drop downs and going through various areas to try to get to where you need, while that is still available, being able to group what you do in a mobile friendly, easy to use environment. You see these big buttons, right? I'm in my bank management workspace. What are the reports that I've said that I want? My most frequently accessed solutions here, right? And some of my demo data is old, but look, just show me my current balance, my graph, just a simple KPI for operating account. Or over on the left, just touchscreen enabled sort of buttons for looking at your bank statements, maybe importing that, starting your reconciliations. But this isn't all, this data becomes usable. It's not just nice reports. You can drill down to see different information, right? Why did our bank balance drop significantly that day? And drilling down now on that day, I can see all of the payments that went out. Now you've got these sorting, filtering, grouping of sort of interactive inquiries and reports available all throughout the system. So if I said, hey, I was specifically, if someone had asked me about specific check number, and I'll just type that in there. Here I can see a specific check, right? Drill down to see that specific check that started just with one of our dashboards, and maybe see some of the information behind that. Now here I can see like the vendor number, the status that it truly was paid, what the date was on that. But then being able to just right from here, very simply come out here and add some additional features. Maybe I want to know, okay, well, who did we actually send this? Go back here, there we go. Send this check to, and now we just see, very simply, it was Fabricam Electronics. That was our vendor name. Again, the ability to sort, print, export, things like that we might want, but continue to go further. What invoices did we pay on this check? Well, it was just one invoice, but who approved it? What was going on behind the scenes? Continuing to drill down to where we can even get back to the original purchase order, the original invoice, the original purchase order. So we can not only see, okay, who did we pay this check to? And we started off with an overall bank balance dashboard, right? But then being able to drill down all the way to see a big check, what was paid on that check? What was the purchase order behind it? Who approved it via the workflow? What attachments were there? And you're not having to leave a screen, just simple drill down, being able to use that data across the application, even just starting at a bank ledger, all the way to the original purchase order that was approved to make that purchase, that was therefore paid by that check that affected our bank balance, right? And now a couple of other things as we look at the last few minutes here is simple, the ability to start using searches that go throughout the application. We're not just searching for a single area or those things. If I was a new user or I couldn't remember where to go to run a trial balance, right? Maybe I type in trial balance and the system thinks, okay, you probably mean a general ledger trial balance because it's at the top, but maybe you mean a banking balance control report. What were your beginning balances for your project management? It's searching throughout the application to make other suggestions as to what you might be looking for in case you don't remember exactly what Dynamics 365 called that report that you wanted. And from here, I could click that to then access running my trial balance. But maybe you don't remember how to run a trial balance, and being able to use use guides to walk you through. Because Microsoft knows that most people right now, if they can't remember how to do something, usually the first thing they do is Google it. They go to YouTube, watch some video of that. Well, what if you could embed that right in the application just through your training processes, right? So if I come in here, I go to a task recorder, I'm going to play a recording as a guide. So it's part of our training, right? We recorded these various processes, but it's not just watching a video on one screen and trying to follow along on the other screen as you're going through. These task guides that Microsoft has enabled will walk you through actually performing that process on the fly. Yeah, so it tells us to start with, okay, something simple. I can show you what a traditional navigation sort of thing might have looked like. Might look like go to my modules. It says go to general ledger, excuse me. Then under inquiries and reports, we've got trial balance. And then when I'm there, the system recognizes, okay, I've made the proper navigation, and now what do I do next? And it's pointing me right to this idea of, pick a date. So I'm just gonna go with some of the dates that are there, the starting date, the ending date, just run this for the month of December. Now it's telling me to pick a financial dimension set. This is a little bit of those dimensional chart of accounts we talked about as being available with a lot of modern systems. And it's that idea of saying, well, how do you want this to calculate your balances? Because maybe you want, in this case, I want the balances to be by my main account, the fund and department. Or maybe I want it to be by main account and cost center. Or maybe I want it to just be a rolled up project level trial balance. What is our project balances at the high level? Being able to just pick these different dimension sets. You're not writing different reports, it's just how do you want it to organize and calculate the balances based upon the different dimensions that you're using at the time. So I pick those and click calculate balance. And here it's going to actually go ahead and do that for me. So I can see that it's giving me a balance for that month of every combination of my main account, my fund, and department. And not only did it show me how to run the trial balance through this guide, but when I was done, I actually ran the trial balance I wanted. So it wasn't just training me how to do it, it helped me do it actually on the fly with what I needed to use further. And then I could see right here, for instance, here was our accounts receivable domestic account, here in our general fund for audit department or our finance department. And I want to know, hey, where did our $19,000 come from for our finance department in the general fund that month? You can then, it's available to drill down and actually use that data from the report. A real intuitive sort of inquiry design. So now I can see everything that posted to that account, and I could see, oh, we had that's right, our $18,000 of rent receivables were posted to the general fund that month. Maybe that's incorrect. I need to go and make it a correction now. But being able to use that data on the fly in an intuitive way to sort, find out how I want, and let the system kind of train me and show me how to do it based upon those user guides are just some of those new features and just a way of using the system that's completely new for a lot of folks and enabled in a modern solution versus a lot of the legacy ways that we are used to doing things. So again, I hope that sneak peek allowed you to see a little bit of what we had, or what you can expect and look for in a modern cloud solution, why folks are making that move. And we're just so grateful that you joined us all today for the second of our 4 Road to TribalNet webinar series, the 10 reasons tribes are moving ERP to the cloud. We really invite you to join us to get a deeper dive into the security and how to stay one step ahead of a breach here on October 12th. And then being able to see some of those expanded uses, as we talked about earlier with the tribal platforms, and what you can truly do when you're all on the same platform like Dynamics 365. And joining us for the future of tribal community services on Thursday, October 28th. There again, we thank you for the time. I know we've just got a few minutes left. Like to see if there's any questions that we can answer before we end for the day.
I did have one question sent to me. It is, I have other lines of business technology I need access to. How does the integration work with these applications?
That's a great question. So there's a couple of ways that can be handled. If you're utilizing, if your other line of business application is an older application, oftentimes they may or may not have the API infrastructure we're talking about. And that's where there's some great tools, some integration tools that are out there. Some of them are called Scribe and MuleSoft. There's a number of others that integrate and work directly, have connectors into the Microsoft Dynamics APIs. So we can use those middleware integration tools to connect to some legacy applications. And then they're already then mapped to and connected to Dynamics 365 APIs that are very powerful. You can also do that through some of the Azure integration tools that we really like Azure Data Factory and items like that that are natively integrated with Dynamics 365? It's a great question.
And then another question, how does the functionality of Microsoft's cloud ERP solution differ from my on-prem solution?
Well, depending upon the solution, there could be a number of ways that it differs. And I think at its core, one of those things that we really talked about earlier is that ability to be flexible in how your configuration happens. You know, so many older on-prem solutions, it is very difficult to make configuration changes because some of that initial configuration actually impacts the database structure. And so when you're on what is commonly referred to now as a data entity structure, that is a lot more flexible in how that's designed. So while you can configure the system to work how it is right now, if going forward those needs change, you can just configure the system in a different way without major headaches, and in a controlled sort of development test environment, production environments, you can test those out. But it just makes adapting to those changes so much easier. But then being web-based, the ability to have very powerful workflows that can control those business processes, automate things where it makes sense to, but require manual intervention when you need, that can be accessed from anywhere. In the past, we used to always be asked for, does it have an online portal for us to review our reports? Well, the entire system is now online, so that by giving proper access to the folks that need access to those functions, it just truly, you don't have the idea of a portal necessarily as much anymore, because everything is available online for authorized users to make requests, you run the reports, make updates to transactions, post financial transactions for the folks that are authorized and need to do so.
Well, that was all the questions that I had. I'm sure if anybody listening has any questions, you can reach out to us here at Tribal Hub, or there you go, connect@arcticit.com to get in touch with Matt or Terry. And thank you guys so much for this second installment of our Road to TribalNet series. So I look forward to talking with you guys next time. Make sure to visit TribalWise.com for more webinars and registration links for the upcoming sessions.
All right, thank you very much.
Great.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.